and then they have these moments where their other twin is like, hey, we're not doing so good. You know what I mean? Like, we have hit rock bottom. Like, we are not dealing with the things we need to deal with. And Gemini is like, blah, 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 blah. Look, I'm around all these people. The vibes are great. Why do we need to ruin the vibe by talking about these shitty feelings? What's good, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I actually have created a list for you, so we won't be reacting to a list that I found. I'm gonna go through a list that I made on my own, which is fun, and also I feel like it's really easy for me to, you know, play it off when I'm reacting to a list. If people don't like what was picked for a certain sign, I can really just be like, well, that wasn't me. I didn't make the list, so you can't be mad at me. But with this one, it is all me, you know? And you know, I can handle it. And guess what? We can all have different opinions and it's totally fine. And I actually encourage you when you comment to let me know what you would pick for one of the signs. If you didn't like what I picked or if you have something better for it, yeah, comment it down below. As long as you're nice about it, it's really not gonna bother me because I get to see your creativity too, you know? So today's list is all about how each zodiac sign handles rock bottom, really how everyone crashes out. You know, we all handle hitting rock bottom differently, and for some signs it's very obvious. Some signs are really good at hiding it. Some signs lie to themselves about whether they're in it or not. So it's a really, really interesting conversation, and let's just get into it. Okay, so first up we have Aries. So this is how I think you handle rock bottom. You are more impulsive than ever, and you're likely lashing out and itching for a fight. And the thing is, it's like you're probably thinking, well, yeah, those are the negative aspects of, you know, Aries. They get angry and they want to fight. But yeah, when they're hitting rock bottom, I feel like Aries, more than ever, it is kind of a cry for help when they're baiting you in a fight every other second. Because the thing with Mars is it has a lot of energy, you know, especially when it is hyped up like that, like it needs to express that energy, like it's almost overflowing, which is why I say it's really, really important for Aries placements and fire sign placements, but specifically Aries placements, to have some sort of physical activity that they like to do to release all of that, you know, energy. Because at the end of the day, you know, you're a Martian. I can speak for myself as a fellow Martian. Our anger, it's just built different. You know what I mean? Like everyone else, yes, has anger. And then there's the Scorpio and Aries anger. And when you feel our wrath and our anger, it is like World War III. And if we do not have specific practices in place to somewhat calm ourselves down before we blow up on someone, we can come off really, really strong. We can say shit that we can't take back. But in the heat of the moment, because we're Martians and because we feel like all is fair in love and war, we really have no problem burning those bridges and just taking out our anger onto you, whether it was your fault or not. And even if it is someone's fault, I feel like it's better to take a beat, really figure out what you want to say, because sometimes I feel like you will actually make the most impact, Aries Scorpio, when you do take a step back and you really figure out what it is that you want to say. Like your words will still have a kick to them. You know what I mean? You could take a breath, you could take a breather, but because Aries is one of the most impulsive signs ever, they kind of have this like, well, I have nothing to lose attitude when they hit rock bottom, especially because Aries likes to do things by themselves. They're that lone soldier. So because of that, it's really easy for them to cut everyone off. And it's bad because Aries, it's good for you to have those people that check you and that care about you and can calm you down. But I feel like when Aries hits rock bottom, they don't want to be calmed down. You know what I mean? They don't want that therapy talk. They want you to fuck right off. And if you don't, now you're going to be in their line of fire and they're going to start with you before they end it with whoever made them feel that way in the first place. Okay, next we have Taurus. This is how you handle rock bottom. You dive deeper into your own source of comfort until you're numb. You almost refuse to acknowledge that you have hit rock bottom, which is very much Taurus coded in the sense that, listen, as long as I have my things that make me happy, such as my bed, and you know, any comforting thing that you have, I feel like Taurus will fully embrace that part of their life, even if, you know, there's a fire. It's like that meme, that cat that's like sitting pretty, like drinking its coffee and there's like a fire behind it. Like that's Taurus when they hit rock bottom. They will refuse to acknowledge it until it really affects their safety. Because to Taurus, it's like, well, if I don't acknowledge it, then it's not real. Like I can just fully ignore it. And that's the problem with Venusians, right? Why? Because they want to only embrace the more beautiful aspects of life, the happier emotions, the peace. They're very uncomfortable when it comes to hitting rock bottom and going through phases that maybe they're not their best self and that they can't be their relaxed, happy, for Libra, social self, right? So, and those are the things that make them happy. Venus likes to be happy. So if they're going through rock bottom in their head, they're like, well, I don't want to hit rock bottom and then now I can't enjoy, you know, my life. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like an inconvenience to them that they've hit rock bottom, even though it's something that you can't control and everyone goes through it, you know? So I feel like with Taurus, they will fully drown themselves in the things that make them feel good, which I feel like is not always a bad thing, right? Like it's good to have things that bring you joy. So when you're going through shit, you can, you know, use that as a tool to feel better, but that's short term. You know what I mean? Like at some point you're going to have to acknowledge that you are at rock bottom and you're going to have to deal with these ugly feelings before you can move past them. Okay, next we have Gemini. So this is how you handle rock bottom, Gemini. You distract yourself and also you talk in circles about it and then you distract yourself again. If I have these activities that I'm doing and I'm always busy, I don't really have to feel the feelings that come with hitting rock bottom and being, you know, in this place of pain, you know? But then also we can't, as a Gemini moon, we can't stop ourselves, right? Like when something is bothering us, when we are going through something, all we want to do is verbalize it, rationalize it, and talk to anyone about it. You know what I mean? Like if you have a Gemini as a friend, you know what it is like when they have a problem and they're dealing with something, they will not shut up about it. We will not shut up about it. But also, we also get distracted easily. So it's a natural experience, you know, for Gemini. They're not like actively saying, I'm gonna distract myself. It is just literally how a Gemini's brain works. So when they see things or when they know something's happening or new people are around, like they can easily just distract themselves. And then they have these moments where their other twin is like, hey, we're not doing so good. You know what I mean? Like we had hit rock bottom. Like we are not dealing with the things we need to deal with. And Gemini is like, blah, 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 blah. Look, I'm around all these people. The vibes are great. Why do we need to ruin the vibe by talking about these shitty feelings? But then they'll be around someone they feel comfortable with and they'll start talking about it all over again and then convince themselves that it's not that big of a deal. So literally it's like an endless loop of, well, if I am able to, you know, have fun, then it's really not that big of a deal. But then it comes in the forefront of their mind and they keep talking about it and talking about it. And then they go back to making it feel like it's not that big of a deal. You know, it's like an endless circle. And at some point you're going to have to get off the ride, Gemini. Okay, the next sign that we have is Cancer. And honestly, I personally think the term crash out was created by a Cancer. And if it's not, it was created by the wrong person because it should have been created by a Cancer. I feel like Cancer is having a full-blown meltdown. You know what I mean? At the club. A full-blown meltdown, unapologetically, literally acting like almost a toddler, but again, very, very productive, you know? In terms of actually dealing with their feelings, Cancer is at the top of the chart, at the top of the list of signs that fully embrace their feelings and are fully expressing them so then they can get over it faster. So while they can be known as the crybabies, at least the crybaby is fully feeling their feelings so they can move on. You know what I mean? When you are not a crybaby, Cancer, I'm really doing you a service today. When you are not a crybaby, you know, you are still holding on to these feelings and it's not very productive and it's going to take over your subconscious. You know what I mean? Cancer feels a feeling, expresses that feeling, and then moves on. Cardinal water, right? And also for Cancer, when you hit rock bottom, to them, they feel like, yeah, the rug has been pulled out of them. The safety that they have created and have craved and will continue to crave for the rest of their life is almost being snatched away from them. And that drives Cancer crazy because safety is what they value the most in this life, whether it's financial safety, you know, familial safety, emotional safety, all of the safeties, right? Like that matters to Cancer. And when you hit rock bottom, usually, typically, one of those things is threatened, right? And Cancer really feels that deep in their soul. So they really can't help but crash out because to them it feels like they're stripped of the thing that makes them feel the most safe. So for Cancer, it's a good old-fashioned cry sesh. You know what I mean? And you might think all the signs, like, isn't that what everyone does when they hit rock bottom? Sure, there are journeys that include crying. For Cancer, it's very much crying. Like, you know what I mean? It's very much just completely crashing out from beginning to end. And then when it's over, you know, because they dealt with it. Okay, next we have Leo. So this is how you hit rock bottom, Leo. You keep wanting to keep your chin up. You know, you're being a really good sport and you pretend that nothing can get you down, but internally you are beating yourselves up. You know what I mean? I feel like we give, for good reason, you know, Virgo the credit for being the sign that is the hardest on themselves. You know, Virgo's up there. But I don't think we talk about it enough for Leo. Leos are very, very, very hard on themselves. And honestly, when they're down bad, their ego is louder than ever, telling them that they will never get what they want, telling them that they're never good enough. Leo holds themselves to a very high standard, much like Virgo. They have this in common. But the difference is Leo likes to be out and about. Leo likes to be seen, you know? Whereas Virgo is the hermit. They're the hermit, obviously, in tarot, right? And it's very much what they embody. Like Virgos, if they're not good, they're really good at being loners, Virgos. Like they don't have to be out and about. If they're not feeling it, they have no problem being with their own company. They have no problem being in their own space. Virgo loves alone time. The thing with Leo is when they're, you know, down bad, they still want to show the world that nothing can get them down. They still want to show up, you know? And that I feel like sometimes really hinders their growth because again, you are completely distracting yourself from actually feeling the feelings. Well, it's nice and you might think, and I think when we were all a little bit younger, we thought, well, you know what, if I can just, you know, get up and do what I need to do and completely ignore these negative feelings, that means I'm strong. You know what I mean? That means that I don't let anything get me down. And that's very much what Leo is like, right? Their ego tells them that if you just show up and you put a smile on your face, you're good. You haven't hit rock bottom, like nothing's wrong with you. But really, again, you are prolonging the process of healing because you are refusing to acknowledge that there are negative things, bad things, unhappy things happening within you. And that is okay. You know what I mean? I feel like Leos need to understand that while I love and appreciate that you like to show up as your best self all the time and look presentable all the time and be confident all the time, it is unfair to your soul, you know what I mean, to your heart, to tell yourself that you can't have anything other than perfect. Like you can't look anything other than perfect. Like allow yourself to have these rock bottom moments. You know what I mean? It's totally fine. It doesn't make you less than. Okay, next we have Virgo. So Virgo, this is what happens when you hit rock bottom. You start analyzing and working backwards to figure out where it went wrong. You know what I mean? Again, very similar to Leo, you start blaming yourself about why you're never good enough and why if you were more perfect and you did it more like this and you were more organized, you wouldn't have been at this place. You know what I mean? You wouldn't have hit rock bottom. Again, this is a message for everybody. You are going to hit rock bottom multiple times in your life. That is not my opinion. That is a fact. You have probably gone through it multiple times. You're probably going to go through it more in the future. Like, that is just the cycle of life. You know what I mean? Really, I feel like when you hit rock bottom, it shows something's got to give, something's got to change. And although this sucks right now, the only way is up, right? And typically your journey to go back up again is going to be different than where you were before you hit rock bottom, right? You're going to be up in another place, in another chapter of your life. And I think that's a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? But you still have to understand that there's nothing wrong with you hitting rock bottom. And there's nothing wrong with you being lost in life. It's just the cycle of life. But I feel like with Virgo, you guys like to prevent a lot of things. You guys like to prevent anything bad from happening. That's why you guys are so good at analyzing, right? You have the strongest attention to detail out of all the zodiac signs, Virgo. And I think because of that, you are almost, you know, a little bit of a mathematician or a scientist or whoever you want to call it. And you're sitting there and you're like, okay, this is where I went wrong. And next time, if I just don't do this, then maybe that will never happen again. And that's just, there are too many variables in life, external variables that will affect your ability to have a good day or a bad day. Like, that's just a fact. As much as you think you can control everything, there are still things that you cannot control, Virgo, that will fuck up your day or fuck up your plans. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make you any less of a human being. You know what I mean? I think you guys are just so hard on yourselves. And you get a little bit too analytical, which is not a hot take, of course, Virgo. You get way too analytical when you are in a negative place and you start thinking about all the logistics and why you went wrong here and why you went wrong there, when really, again, it comes back to you needing to sit with that feeling and acknowledge it and acknowledge the fact that, yeah, I fucked up or shit happened and now I'm not happy. I'm angry right now. I'm really, really upset. I'm sad. Sit with that shit. Sit with that shit and then let it go. And then let it go. Because no matter what, you're going to come out of it. How many rock bottoms have we all had? and yet we're still here. Okay? So you're gonna be okay. Even though temporarily it sucks, maybe you're embarrassed or sad or insecure, you're gonna come out of it. You're gonna come out of it. Unless someone freezes time and now you can no longer change any of your circumstances, which is not possible, you're gonna come out of it and something's gonna change and life is gonna get better, because that is the cycle of life. Okay, so next we have Libra. Okay, this is how you handle rock bottom, Libra. You, much like your other fellow Venus sign sister, you are holding on to the peace for as long as possible, and you are avoiding the ugly truth as much as possible, and you will lose yourself in social interactions. That is what Libra will do. And also you guys will refuse to be alone, hence losing yourself in social interactions, because that is when the thoughts creep in. You have that very much similar with Gemini. So I would say with Libra, it's like a combination between Gemini and Taurus, right? Libra truly, truly, truly believes that, hey, if I'm around people that are happy, I can just mirror that energy and then I'm happy. You know what I mean? Or we can just completely focus on you. So now we don't have to talk about me and what it is that I'm going through. You know, that is another issue that Libra has, because they're such people. Because they're such people. They are people. Because they're such social people and they love, you know, social interactions and being extroverted, it's really easy for Libra to, again, just be around people and make it about them. You know what I mean? Like, let's talk about what it is you're going through. Oh, that's amazing. You know what I mean? Like, we don't gotta talk about me. That is how Libra makes a lot of people feel comfortable, you know? They have no problem asking you questions, learning about you, mirroring what it is that you like. Like, they can just easily connect with people because they mirror you, right? They're the sign of partnerships. So with Libra, if we don't have to talk about me and me being at rock bottom, then I'm not at rock bottom, because we're just focusing on you today. You know what I mean? Like, that is how they get away with it. That is how they run from their negative feelings. They like to put themselves in places where everyone is happy, you know, socializing, being out and about. That is just the problem with, you know, our Venus ruled signs, is their inability. I mean, no, you have the ability. You just do not want to. You have a hard time acknowledging negative feelings and negative situations. You know what I mean? You want to look the other way for as long as possible, because once you acknowledge it, now you're going to lose yourself in it, because it's not something you're comfortable with. But just because we are not comfortable with it doesn't mean that we can't do it. You know what I mean? Just because Aries and Scorpio Venus and Virgo Venus, just because those Venus signs aren't in the best placement, right, aren't in the best signs, that doesn't mean that those three Venus signs are incapable of love. You know what I mean? It's just a different journey. So the same can be said for Taurus and Libra. Just because you guys are not the best at dealing with conflict or negative feelings because you're Venus ruled, that doesn't mean that you can't do it. It's just more difficult for you, and it's easier for you to just pretend, you know? But again, that shit builds up. And that is when Libra blows up, is because they feel like, and they know they've been a people pleaser and have been pleasing people and have never even acknowledged what it is that they're going through. And they're not talking to people about their rock bottom. That is another thing that, you know, Libra likes to do. They will not talk to even their closest people about it, because they're almost ashamed and embarrassed about being someone that's going through something negative. Or they think that people won't listen to them and that they're not interesting unless they're talking about good things, happy things, you know, Venus ruled things. And that is just not true. And if you are around people who only want you around when you're talking about good things, those are not your people. They're not your people. Okay, next we have Scorpio. This is how Scorpio hits rock bottom. Scorpio is ready to burn it all down, and much like Aries, lash out at anyone in their way, which is why they will soon isolate, even more than usual, because we know Scorpio is like Virgo and loves to be alone. But will isolate. I'm talking solitary confinement, you know what I mean? And is actually torturing themselves by doing that. Because there's like you wanting to be alone because you truly love your own company and it's relaxing, and the thought of you being in your own room, in your own living room, watching your favorite show, not being around people, that gets Virgo, Scorpio, and Capricorn going. We love that shit. And Taurus too, you know what I mean? But then there is literally torturing yourself by being alone because you know you're going through it and you've hit rock bottom, and you almost are punishing yourself by not allowing anyone to have a connection to you anymore. You know what I mean? I'm talking people that are closest to us. We will completely just isolate ourselves because we almost, again, at our lowest vibration, when we're being mean to ourselves, we almost tell ourselves that we don't deserve comfort. That's what Scorpio does, right? We tell ourselves that we don't deserve comfort, we deserve to be alone, and then, you know, that Plutonian energy just takes over, and now we're living in the underworld, and we're just living with our shadow self. And while shadow work is absolutely amazing, I don't think it's good for you when you've hit rock bottom to just completely drown in your negative self-talk and, you know, your shadow self's beliefs, right? And if you are at a place where you're really diving deep, you still need to have connections with people, you know? People that know you, Scorpio, so they can tell when you're going a little too far. They can tell when you're beating yourself down too much, you know what I mean? So they can remind you that you're still lovable. Just because you've hit rock bottom doesn't mean that you belong there. And your soul is just meant to, you know, isolate and completely be alone because you don't deserve to have happy people around you. You know, that is when Scorpio really, really can go through periods of deep depression, is when we tell ourselves that, you know, we don't deserve to have comfort and we don't deserve to have joy and we don't deserve to have happy relationships. Because we're so angry and we're so sad and our life is just so bleak. And, you know, who wants to be around that, right? Like, we keep telling ourselves that. And that is a very, very dangerous place to be for Scorpio. And then if Scorpio is absolutely completely unhealed, and some that are maybe half unhealed, you know, they won't isolate because they will feel this itch to take out their anger on the people closest to them. And that is another dangerous game that you play, Scorpio, because now, because you've hit rock bottom and because you feel like you have nothing to lose, you start testing these relationships that are very, very close to you to see how far you can push them, to see just how much they still love you, no matter how ugly you are. You know, I'm not talking physically ugly, I mean emotionally ugly, right? You want to see if they can handle your wrath, and you're almost testing them because you're not in a good place. And you're pulling them down with you to see if they are willing to survive in the trenches with you, which if they're real ones, they will, but that doesn't mean that they deserve it. You know what I mean? That does not mean that they deserve it. Okay, next we have Sagittarius. For Sagittarius, when you hit rock bottom, you are running away, whether it's through travel, like physically running away, moving cities, moving planets, or, you know, using jokes, you know, to make light of the situation. That is another form of running away, right? Like, when you are making jokes out of something, you're almost hoping that people will think that you're not that upset, that it's not that big of a deal. Because listen, if they can make a joke out of it, they're clearly okay, right? And you're not just fooling other people by doing that. You're also trying to fool yourself by making jokes out of situations. And do not get me wrong, this Gemini moon believes that humor can heal, right? Like, humor really, really, truly has the power to heal. And I think some of the funniest people have gone through some of the worst shit in life, right? Like, there's a direct correlation. I believe in that. But again, that doesn't mean that when you hit rock bottom, you need to now suddenly make a joke out of everything, because when you do that, again, you are invalidating your feelings, right? And if you're using it as a way to confuse the people around you, to make them feel like there's actually not, you know, too much wrong with you in your life, because you can still make light of it, right? But hopefully, Sagittarius, you have people around you that know you, like know you, so they can tell when you're using jokes and humor as a way to run away from your problems, as a way to pretend that you haven't hit rock bottom. Because again, you know, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is the happy-go-lucky planet, right? Like, Jupiter likes to have fun, you know? Jupiter likes joy, right? Jupiter doesn't want to deal with negativity, like, you know what I mean? So for Sagittarius, if they can truly change their environment, or if they can make a joke out of it, that is their way of dealing with rock bottom, right? And also, I feel like another thing that, you know, Sagittarius likes to do is they can very much get obsessed with a new spiritual practice when they hit rock bottom, because, you know, they're such the spiritual sign. And I think if, let's say, their TikTok algorithm hits them with something new, they're gonna be like, oh my god, like, this is my entire personality now. You know what I mean? Like Buddhism, like, you know, White Lotus vibes. So it's like, if Sagittarius finds something like that, a new spiritual practice that they can deep dive into when they hit rock bottom, they're gonna tell themselves, you know, I have hit rock bottom because I'm not embodying this spiritual practice. Like, as long as I do this, I never have to deal with this again. You know, there are certain signs that truly believe, certain Zodiac signs, that there is a way to never hit rock bottom again. And that is just not possible. Like, again, it's a circle of life. Okay, next we have Capricorn. So for Capricorn, this is what you do when you hit rock bottom. You start working harder. And if you're a Capricorn, you're like, I don't got a job, or I'm a student. Why do you always relate it back to work? It doesn't have to be about work, like your career. You just start working harder at something. You know, like in your daily life, you start pushing yourself more. Even if you've probably been pushing yourself a little too much already, you tell yourself the solution to you hitting rock bottom is you trying harder, pushing yourself further, you know what I mean, to the point of exhaustion. So now you don't have to deal with these negative feelings. And I feel like Capricorn can truly push the boundaries of burnout, you know, when they hit rock bottom. Because when you hit rock bottom, hopefully it's a place of rest. You know what I mean? Hopefully you can really, really sit there. I mean, in a perfect world, that's what it would be like. But we live in a capitalistic society where you still have to get up and work. You know what I mean? And for Capricorn, you know, they tell themselves that it's a good thing. It's a good thing that I can work because now I don't have to deal with this. And I can really pour my energy into my work. And there's a difference between, you know, dealing with some negative feelings and alchemizing it into creativity and work and flow, right? But then there is hitting rock bottom and truly, truly being lost and then pushing yourself to work harder. When you have hit rock bottom, it's time to reflect, right? It's time to sit with yourself and your feelings and your internal world and figure out what led to this and really acknowledge your ugly feelings. When you're pushing yourself even more than you normally do, Capricorn, when you've hit rock bottom, you are really, really, truly telling your inner child that you don't matter. Get the fuck over it. You're too sensitive. You know what I mean? And Capricorn in general, I feel like you guys, you know, us, I'm a Capricorn rising, Capricorn placements, you really need to start nurturing that relationship with your inner child, because typically Capricorn placements have a hardened inner child, right? Like your inner child almost didn't have a chance to be a child, right? Capricorn placements had to grow up very, very early, right? They're the types to be told, oh, you're so mature for your age. And while that may seem like a nice compliment, now as I've gotten older, I've realized it's actually not a compliment at all. Because why didn't I have the chance to act like a child? Why didn't I have the chance to be carefree and joyous and not worry about these serious things, right? Like that is something that Capricorn placements deal with. So I think it's very, very important for you, Capricorn, to nurture that relationship with your inner child and allow them to live a softer life. Tell them that they deserve a softer life and that life doesn't need to be hard and that they don't need to work harder to deserve the nice things in life. Okay, next we have Aquarius. So this is you, Aquarius, when you hit rock bottom. You have a whole new level of detachment that you have unlocked. It's like the final boss. You know what I mean? It's the final boss of detachment. That is what happens when Aquarius hits rock bottom. Because, you know, already Aquarius is the sign that's like, I don't give a fuck, nothing phases me. But when they hit rock bottom, it almost justifies why they are so detached in the first place. They're like, you know what? This is what happens when I care. This is what happens when I try. So now I'm going to completely disassociate from this reality. Very much similar to Pisces in that sense, you know? They can truly, truly, truly just turn off their feelings. But the thing with that is, and if you watch Vampire Diaries, you know what I'm talking about. So basically in Vampire Diaries, it's all about like, you know, vampires, right? And when they're drinking like actual human blood, that is when they are truly like in a trance, right? And they call it shutting off their humanity, turning off their humanity, right? Because they're always drinking that human blood, right? But when they're vegetarians and drinking like, I don't know, animal blood or whatever, and they're controlling themselves, you know, their humanity is on. So comparing that to Aquarius and their ability to shut off their emotions, they're not shutting off their humanity, but they're shutting off their emotions. And when Aquarius does that, when they've hit rock bottom, it's not just like I'm numb to emotions today. When they've hit rock bottom, because usually rock bottom takes like, you know, days, weeks, months for you to recover from, right? Like you're in a really low place. So when Aquarius shuts off their feelings for that long, it's hard for them to come back and care, right? And that's very dangerous for Aquarius because let's be honest, you are ruled by the 11th house of community. Community matters to you. You are so good at connecting with people and figuring out what it is that we need, right? So if you've hit rock bottom and you've completely shut out your emotions and are isolating yourself, the world's going to miss your energy. You know what I mean? Again, talk to people because you are an air sign, Aquarius. I know you're a fixed air sign, so I know you're more private than the other two, but that doesn't mean that you can't talk it out with the people closest to you. You know what I mean? Don't completely shut off your feelings. Sure, you want to detach, but have a couple of friends that you are attached to still, you know? And Aquarius will truly tell themselves, you know, this world isn't even worth the pain of trying and failing, right? Because Aquarius very much can look at the world and see what's wrong with it and see why people aren't getting along and why people are selfish. And, you know, when they hit rock bottom, it's really easy for them to lose hope when it comes to the world. And they'll tell themselves, you know, that they're better off being alone without the expectation of connection. Okay, now finally we have Pisces. So Pisces, when you hit rock bottom, it's simple. It's escapism, obviously. And I feel like much like Libra, you will also lose yourself in other people's problems. You know, for Libra, it's very much talking about other people's problems, but with Pisces, you are living in other people's problems. You have made other people's problems your own, and it's very, very easy for you because, you know, you're so good at connecting with people and you are the most empathetic sign. So if you've hit rock bottom, you feel like, because I'm already there, like, tell me, like, put it on me. What is it that you're going through? Like, let me feel all these feelings because I'm already feeling all these shitty feelings. So let's deal with yours too. I'll take on yours too. You know what I mean? You will almost tell yourself that this world is, no, you will tell yourself that this world is filled with pain. So why should I be expected to get back up and try when I can just live in my own world and in my own fantasy so I don't ever have to deal with this pain again? One where I'm not judged, you know what I mean, or hurt. It's crazy because, you know, Pisces is a very emotional sign. They're a water sign, and you know, they feel the ups and downs of every feeling because they're a mutable water sign, right? Like they're riding that wave. But when they hit rock bottom, it's almost like they are willingly drowning in that pain and in that feeling. You know what I mean? Even though they have the power to come back up because you are a mutable water sign, right? But I feel like Pisces is willingly holding their head under the water for longer than they should be because they think they deserve it, because they tell themselves, you know, well, I'm already here, might as well feel all of this pain at once. And like I said, just take on the pain of other people too. Since I'm so good at living in this pain, give me your pain. You know what I mean? You take on other people's problems really, really easily. You have to remember that you can't have the dream without the nightmare. You know what I mean? You will become stronger every time you break out of your nightmare being rock bottom. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, you know, Pisces wants the happy feelings. Pisces wants to live in their dreamland. They want to escape because escaping gives them an opportunity to be happy again. But like I said 100 times in this video, you are gonna hit rock bottom at some point. You just need to remember that you can get out of it. You know what I mean? Just because you're so good at living in this pain and taking on other people's problems, you're like an endless well. You know what I mean? Pisces is like an endless well of emotional availability, right? And I think it's really easy for you guys to forget your own needs because you've taken on other people's pain so much. So it almost makes you live in rock bottom because you're not allowing yourself to get up and, you know, leave this space because you're allowing other people to keep putting their pain and their problems onto you. And at some point you're going to have so much weight on you that you can't get yourself out of this sticky situation. Okay, that is the end of this video. My God, this is a long one. But I feel like this was such a good conversation, one-way conversation. So make it a two-way conversation by commenting your thoughts below. I want to know what you guys thought of my list. If you have any, you know, add-ons, if you think there's any other ways that any of these signs hit rock bottom, let me know. And let me know which, you know, resonated with you more. Did it resonate more for your moon sign, for your Venus sign, for your Mars sign? Let me know down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. I love you guys so, so much. Have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you guys for the podcast later this week. Bye.